Davis, a Tory member of the Standards and Privileges Committee, whether Downey has now shown the Commons can regulate itself. And will the government's new Welfare to Work programme put hundreds of thousands of people into real jobs? The government minister responsible faces the doubters. The decision by Burton's to tell its suppliers to cancel any more contracts for merchandise sourced in Burma comes at a time when the British government has toughened its rhetoric against the military regime that runs the country. The Burton Group says its decision to stop contracts comes after a review of customer opinion towards merchandise sourced from Burma. It also comes after Newsnight revealed to the company that one of their suppliers had links with the military regime. Our correspondent Sue Lloyd-Roberts has been to Burma to look at the consequences of foreign involvement there.
The annual procession to honour Rangoon's 2,000-year-old Shwedagon Pagoda, a tourist promoter's dream. But despite the government declaring this to be the year to visit Myanmar, as they now call Burma, the tourists haven't turned up. They voted with their feet to boycott a country ruled by an illegal military regime with one of the worst human rights records in the world. British businessmen in Rangoon, though, aren't quite so sensitive.
I think there is enormous potential in this country for European businesses, particularly British businesses, and I think it's in Europe and the country's interest, Britain's interest, to take advantage of this.
The international community is divided in its reaction to Burma. America has imposed economic sanctions. The ASEAN group of local tiger economies has invited Burma to join it, while the European Union is sitting on the fence. Britain has been a major investor in Burma, and garments are an important import. In a factory outlet in downtown Rangoon, I found labels familiar in the UK, like the Burton Group. Today, they announced they're to withdraw from Burma after they were told by Newsnight that the factory that makes their shirts is connected with the military. Posing as a manufacturer with a secret camera, I called on the government's garment section, which I found in the Department of Defence Procurement at military headquarters in central Rangoon. On the first floor of the army building, I was introduced to Colonel Aung San, the key contact for Western companies wanting to make clothes in Burma. I showed him the list of factories that I'd been given that make clothes for export to Britain, which I'd been told could only be contacted with his permission. Which one would you recommend?
Yes, all our factories in Burma industrial estate is under my control. So if which factory you want to see, our factory price is low than other factories. Okay. Yes.
For example, you're competing with maybe a daily wage in Thailand of $2 a day, or $1 a day in China. What do you want?
Less than $2 in Myanmar.
Less than $2?
Yes.
Less than $1?
Yes, sometimes.
Is this the beginning or the end? The colonel invited me to visit one of his factories where the girls say they earn $2 a day, but have to give half their wages back to the army in order to keep their jobs. They told me that when employees at another factory complained, 2 truckloads of soldiers arrived and threatened to arrest them. I went to another factory on the colonel's list that supplies the British group Burton. The Unimix factory has, I was told by the manager, close contacts with the military and is built on army-owned land. Employees here get to keep their wages, although they say the jobs are reserved for army families. I spoke to a former employee who must remain anonymous because giving such details to foreigners in Burma can land you in jail. I asked him whether it helped being in a military family to work at Unimix.
Yes. All the military family, they give the first choice to the military family. All the second choice is the local people.
Low wages and a disciplined workforce make Burma an attractive place to invest. Working for wages of 50 pence a day, children are employed to build a vast new industrial estate on the outskirts of Rangoon to accommodate the increasing number of foreign companies coming here. There are plenty of children available. After student riots last December, the government closed down all secondary schools and universities. It's this kind of treatment of its people by the Burmese government that has persuaded the new British government to take the lead among Burma's critics. But there's nothing in law to stop British companies trading with Burma. The British I spoke to here said that business should be kept separate from politics. And one British businessman, who I found in the Land Rover office, said foreign companies could help the generals.
We have to understand where the generals are coming from, and they are themselves trying to govern a country which is itself in a difficult situation. So I think they need all the help they get with this difficult problem of bringing the country after some 30 years of isolation into the modern times.
The British businessman could be forgiven for being confused about the government's new ethical foreign policy when it comes to Burma. The government has said it won't finance any new trade promotions to the country, although it will continue to advise companies already here while making sure that they're aware of the opposition leader Aung San Suu Kyi's opinions on the matter. The lady, as they call her here, was last seen publicly in Rangoon a year ago when she told her supporters that foreign companies shouldn't trade with Burma while the illegal military government is still in power. Today, her house is out of bounds to the public and she has to smuggle her messages out on videotape. All trade with Burma, she said recently, simply goes to help the military stay in power. Oil and natural gas are crucial to the survival of the Burmese military. A giant new pipeline carrying gas 245 miles from the Burmese coast to the Thai capital promises £300 million a year in revenue for the generals. The project is a joint venture between the Burmese government and French and American oil companies, with hundreds of millions of pounds of British investment money via the Virgin Islands. But there's a human price too. Over 100,000 refugees from Burma are now camped on the Thai border, most of them fleeing the Burmese military's offensive against the Karen minority. But apart from the war refugees, many people here told me that they were pipeline refugees. They had fled because they'd been forced to work on its construction, or their villages had been destroyed to make way for it.
They wrote to us and said we must get out in 10 days, but we didn't have time. Then the Burmese army arrived in our village and looted the houses and burnt them. They even took the things we had hidden.
Sue Kaur could talk openly to us because she escaped with all her family. Those who fled alone asked to remain anonymous for fear of reprisals against their families back in Burma.
Because foreign companies came in to build the pipeline, we were told by the army to make a financial contribution towards building houses for the pipeline workers. But as we had no money, we were forced to work on the pipeline instead. We had to clear the forest and build huts and barracks and also build trenches. A lot of people got malaria and other illnesses. I saw several people die because they refused to give them medicine. We all agree with Aung San Suu Kyi. Foreign companies shouldn't help the generals.
These pictures taken from the pipeline area, which is in a restricted military zone, illustrate how the project has used forced labor in the most systematic way ever by the Burmese government, or to use its official title, the State Law and Order Restoration Council, the SLORC. The Western companies involved, Unicol and Total, are being charged in America with human rights abuses through their association with the SLORC.
The Western oil companies have hired the SLORC military as the security for their project, and anyone, whether you're a corporation or an individual, is required under the law to hire in a responsible manner. And if these Western oil companies are hiring the most brutal and notorious human rights abusers perhaps in the world today, then they're going to be responsible for those actions of the people in their employ.
The next challenge in the exploration of the Burmese coast involves another British company. Premier Oil is a key player in the Yatagan gas field, which inevitably means working closely with the Burmese military. This project, too, will involve the construction of another pipeline across Burma to Thailand, although it's not certain whether Premier will be involved in this. With the news that Burton is to withdraw from Burma, we asked Premier Oil at its London headquarters about its involvement in the country. The company refused to answer our questions and said it would continue in Burma while recognizing the sensitivity of working there. It added that it would ensure that it would be a positive source for social and economic development. So what can Britain and its new ethical foreign policy do about companies who insist on doing business with Burma?
Our message to them will be the same as it would be to any other company, and that is to think about the human rights record of Burma, to listen to the United Kingdom government's advice. We would discourage economic activity. We cannot control and order companies not to invest and not to trade with Burma.
But there's nothing you can do to stop a company like Premier Oil.
We have taken the action that we can take within the United Kingdom law. We have already tried to persuade our European Union partners to join us in that. We'll continue to ask our European Union partners to join us in taking more action against Burma.
So does the Colonel think that Europe will be tough on Burma?
America is maybe a problem, but is Europe, how do you see it? Europe, no problem.
He may be laughing as a colonel now, but I'll say to him that world opinion is going to change Burma. World opinion is going to be very strong.
Britain is committed to persuading Europe to take tougher action when foreign ministers meet in September, but French construction companies in Rangoon say they're here to stay, along with other major European companies I spoke to. Britain isn't finding it so easy to convert its European partners and some British companies to its newfound morality.
That was Sue Lloyd-Roberts reporting. I'm joined now by Timothy Nunn of the Burma Action Group. A lot of countries have undesirable governments, Mr. Nunn. Why is it that you particularly think the government should target Burma?
Well, you say a lot of countries have undesirable governments. The regime of Burma is appalling, absolutely dreadful. It is an illegal regime. It has stopped the democratically elected government from taking its rightful place. And what's more, I think that we can also see that this is a pragmatic approach, because the economic pressure would have an effect on this regime.
Yes, but you heard Derek Thatcher saying there the government can do nothing unilaterally to encourage its business to stop working in Burma.
Well, there are two solutions to that. First of all, you've seen how public pressure has persuaded the Burton Group to pull out, and as a pressure group working within UK, we will put pressure on all companies that are operating in Burma.
Pressure on companies, not
on companies. First of all, just pressure directly on those companies. It is effective. The Burton Group have
well,
now
the government's doing the same as you.
They are, yes, indeed, and we will be trying to mobilise public opinion to act effectively against those companies.
But what action do you believe government should take or can take to stop this kind of dealing going on?
Well, we're now operating in Europe, within the European Union, to try and develop a consensus to now impose sanctions and economic action against Burma. The UK has to work within that European arena. We recognise that, and now we want to try and act within that European arena to build pressure.
Timothy Nunn, thank you very much. Well, now the long-awaited report by the Parliamentary Commissioner concludes that Neil Hamilton did receive cash from Mohammed Al-Fayed for parliamentary favours. Mr Hamilton tonight continues to deny it, as we'll be hearing in a moment. The report also finds against 4 other former Tory MPs, though several others are cleared. Here's Mark Mardell with the details.
You need to rent an MP just like you rent a London taxi. That's what millionaire Mohammed Al-Fayed claims he was told by one lobbyist. This whole affair is about whether MPs were up for hire. The boss of Harrods felt he was doing badly in his feud with a rival company, Lonrho, and felt the need for parliamentary friends. He says he paid some, treated others to a jolly at the Paris Ritz, then blew the whistle on them.